Hello everyone, this is Kanupriya, PhD Geography, and this is my next video on Chapter 6, which is Geomorphic Processes. This is my third video on this particular chapter. In my previous video, we had discussed about weathering, in which we had studied that there are three types of weathering or three groups of weathering, that is physical weathering, chemical weathering, and biological weathering. So today we'll discuss about the first type of weathering or the first group of weathering, which is chemical weathering, and we'll discuss the various forms of chemical weathering, how the tear and wear of rocks can happen because of the various factors, because of the various chemical reactions that occur. So we'll discuss today chemical weathering. So let's start with this. Chemical weathering processes. The first chemical weathering process is solution. Now we have to understand, and you must have learned about it, that is solution. Anything or any content when dissolved in water or acids, the water or acid with that dissolved content is called as solution. Solution is a process which involves the removal of solids in solution and depends upon solubility of a mineral in water or weak acids. On coming in contact with water, many solids disintegrate and mix up as suspension in water. Soluble rock forming minerals like nitrates, sulphates, potassium are affected by this process. So these minerals are easily leached out without leaving any residue in rainy climates and accumulate in dry regions. So basically solution is one of the important chemical weathering process, because if water is added into the rocks, the minerals or the rocks will be disintegrated and they mix up with water as suspension, like we have nitrates, sulphates, etc. And because of solution, these minerals will be leached out without leaving any residue. And this process is mostly common in rainy climates, and the material which is leached out during the rainy climates will accumulate in the dry seasons. Will accumulate in the dry regions. Minerals like calcium carbonate, calcium magnesium bicarbonate, which is present in limestone, are greatly soluble in water containing carbonic acid and are carried away in water as a solution. Carbonic acid is formed because of the addition of carbon dioxide in water. Carbon dioxide, which is produced by decaying organic matter along with soil water, greatly aids in this reaction. Common salt, which is sodium chloride, is also a rock forming mineral and is susceptible to this process of solution. So basically we have number of minerals which are greatly soluble in water and which leads to the carrying away of those materials or those minerals in water as solution. We have calcium carbonate, calcium magnesium bicarbonate, which are present in limestone, and these are greatly soluble in water and these are carried away in water as solution. We have common salt, that is sodium chloride, which is a soft rock forming mineral and is susceptible to this process of solution. So this is all about solution. Solution is one of the most important weathering process or chemical weathering process which leads to the disintegration and tear and wear of rocks, and they carry the whole minerals or the whole contents in water as solution. So this is all about solution. Now comes the second important chemical weathering process, which is carbonation. Carbonation is basically the reaction of carbonates and bicarbonates with minerals, and it is a very common process which helps in the breaking down of minerals like feldspar and carbonate minerals. Carbon dioxide, when from the atmosphere and from the soil air, is when absorbed by water, it forms carbonic acid, and carbonic acid is a weak acid which helps in the breaking down of the minerals or the rocks. Calcium carbonates or magnesium carbonates, these are when dissolved in carbonic acid, these are removed in a solution without leaving any residue, resulting in the cave formation. That we have already discussed in solution, that carbonic acid is very important for the breaking down of the minerals, because carbonic acid is a weak acid, and the calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate, when they are dissolved in the carbonic acid, they are removed in solution without leaving any residue, which leads to the formation of cave. So this is carbonation. Now the third chemical weathering process is hydration. As the name indicates, hydration, that means hydro, that must be related with water. So now let's start what is hydration. Hydration is the chemical addition of water. Minerals which are present in the rocks, they take up water and expand. This expansion causes an increase in the volume of the material itself or the rock. Calcium sulphate takes in water and turns to gypsum, which is more unstable than calcium sulphate. This process is reversible and long. Continued repetition of this process causes fatigue in the rocks and may lead to their disintegration. So basically, hydration involves the addition of water, and because of the addition of the water, there will be expansion of the content of the materials in the rocks which are present or the rocks itself. Like for example, we have calcium sulphate. When water is added into calcium sulphate, it turns into gypsum, and gypsum is more unstable. And because of this repetitive process, because of the again and again addition of this water, it will causes fatigue in the rocks, and because of the fatigue, it may lead to the disintegration of the rocks. Many clay minerals swell and contract during wetting and drying, and a repetition of this process results in the cracking of overlying materials. Salts in pore spaces undergo rapid and repeated hydration and help in rock fracturing. The volume changes in minerals due to hydration, which also help in physical weathering through exfoliation and granular disintegration. As we all know, there are number of rocks, there are number of clay minerals or materials which are present in the rocks. They swells when water is added into it, and they contract during the drying season or the drying period. When repetition of this process occurs, it leads to the fracturing or cracking of the overlying minerals or rocks. So it will lead to the disintegration of the rocks. Students, I have used two words, that is exfoliation and granular disintegration. This we'll discuss in physical weathering. So this is all about hydration, chemical weathering process. The last chemical weathering process is oxidation and reduction. Firstly, we'll discuss about oxidation. Oxidation means the reaction of oxygen with minerals to form oxides or hydroxides. Oxidation occurs when there is a ready access to the atmosphere and oxygenated waters. The minerals which are greatly affected by this process are iron, manganese, sulfur, etc. In the process of oxidation, rocks break down due to the disturbance caused by addition of oxygen. We have often seen the rusting of iron, that is, the red color of iron upon oxidation turns into brown or yellow, because iron, when combines with oxygen, it forms iron oxide, and which is called as iron oxide or ferrous oxide or ferric oxide, which is commonly called as rust, and it occurs because of the reaction of oxygen and iron. So basically, oxidation also leads to the breaking down of rocks which is caused by the addition of oxygen. Now what is reduction? When oxidized minerals are placed in an environment where oxygen is absent, then reduction takes place. Such condition exists usually below the water table in the areas of stagnant water and waterlogged ground. Red color of iron upon reduction turns to greenish or bluish grey. These weathering processes are interrelated. Hydration, carbonation and oxidation go hand in hand and it hastens the weathering process. So basically, oxidation happens in the presence of oxygen and reduction happens in the absence of oxygen. And these two processes, oxidation, reduction, cannot happen in the absence of hydration and carbonation. All these processes go hand in hand and it hastens the weathering process. So these are the various processes which are related to chemical weathering. So this is all for today. I hope the topic that we have cleared today, that we have studied today, is clear to you. And if you have any doubt, please come up with your doubts. Thank you so much.